Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be going over all of the books that I read in August as well as all of the books that I read in September. I only have 9 books between the 2 months, so I thought it would make more sense to just do one wrap-up video with both of the months. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I have a total of 3 books for August, and then I ended up reading 6 books in September. So let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, the first book I want to talk about that I read in August is The Things We Water by Mariana Zapata. This one I was really excited for. It was kind of like a surprise release for me, and I really love Mariana Zapata's writing. She's really known for like her slow burn sports romances, and this is still a slow burn. Obviously, it's like 700 pages, but it is not a sports romance. It's actually like a werewolf shifter romance, which I really enjoyed. And basically, our main character, Nina, she has this magical puppy and she's trying to keep him out of the general public because he has this flame on his tail, his eyes are red. Like, everybody will know that it's not a normal puppy, and they'll probably like try to take this puppy and like do like scientific stuff with it. So she's trying to keep him safe. And her best friend is actually a werewolf shifter as well, and his cousin owns a ranch in Colorado. So she ends up moving to this ranch in Colorado, and she has to get married within a year of being on this ranch in order for her to stay. It's kind of like their way of saying, like, hey, you need to show us that you're committed to staying here and that you're not just going to leave and spill our secrets, because it's a place where only mythical creatures are. So they don't want like outsiders knowing about it or anything. So you have to show your commitment by either getting married or just like becoming a core part of their community. So there's definitely some romance and some tension between the owner of the ranch and Nina. And Mariana Zapata, of course, did it in the best possible way where she just strings you along and makes it a slow burn. So there's not really any like real romance until like the last 20%, but there's still like chemistry and tension all throughout the book, which I've honestly really grown to love slow burns where they really don't get together until the very end of the book. I feel like that just makes a lot more sense. They're kind of just playing like this tug of war with their feelings throughout the whole book. But I will say that it also touches on like topics of motherhood because she's caring for this puppy and she knows it's a magical puppy who at like some point in his life should be able to shift into like a human boy. So she loves him, she cares for him like a mother, even though it's just a puppy throughout the book. I really loved like the themes of motherhood and all of that kind of stuff. And the community in general was so fun to read about, and I just really enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend, if you like slow burn romances or if you like shifter romances, I would definitely recommend this book. I will say that it is very long and there were a couple of scenes that like probably could have gone without. Like, there were kind of a lot of filler scenes in this book, but again, they also kind of added a lot to the story. Like, I feel like the story could have been done without the filler scenes, but then again, it wouldn't have as much depth. So I kind of like came to appreciate those filler scenes after I was like getting to the end and everything was kind of like coming together. So I actually really enjoyed this book. I think I ended up giving it 4.5 stars if I'm not wrong. So definitely loved it, and I definitely would recommend, especially if you love a slow burn werewolf shifter romance. And then the next book I want to talk about is Nightbane by Alex Astor. I am in love with this series. I need to pick up the next book as soon as possible. The first book I really enjoyed, but then I read this one and I am so torn between Oro and Grimm. Like, I need to read the next books and I need to get to a conclusion about who I would pick, because the love triangle in this story is actually insane. And it's actually a love triangle where I don't know which character is supposed to be the one that she ends up with. So I absolutely love it, and I love all the magical systems in here and all the conflicts in this book. It's just so well written, and it's so well written while not being too like complex. Like, it's so easy to read and it's so fun to read, and like the magic system, the magic abilities, like all that stuff, it is just such a fun chaotic book, and I really enjoy it. I really like Alex Astor's writing. It is just so easy to read, so easy to fly through, and I really have just come to love Alex Astor's writing in fantasy and romance. So I really enjoy this one. I think I give this one 4 stars, but I really need to continue the series like as soon as possible, because I am so torn in this love triangle that I need to figure out an answer, and I need to figure out who she picks, because I honestly, my prediction is that she's gonna choose Oro because he's like the good guy and he's the king. But then she has all these memories with Grimm that are coming back because she's getting her memory back. And like there's this whole like other life that she had lived with grim and like she's getting all those memories back, and like that is so fascinating. I am so fascinated by the series and I really, really need to continue it. Okay, and then the last book that I read in August was Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. This is a story of like found lost family and just like new beginnings, new truths. I really enjoyed it. It's probably one of my favorite literary fiction books that I've read so far. The octopus in this book is so freaking smart. He's honestly the one who pieced the whole story together and like brought these two together at the end. And I just really love the way the story was told. I will say that there was a few times where I had put the book down and I didn't really care too much to pick it back up. But once you get to the end of the story and then the story kind of just like rounds itself out, it's a really well told story and it's a very beautiful told story. Like the way that the story was told was so beautiful. Like the author did not have to involve a giant Pacific octopus in order to connect this family together. So I just really enjoyed it. I think I ended up giving this one 4 stars as well. I don't remember. It may have been 4.5, but I think it's 4. Now that I'm like sitting on it, I'm gonna give it 4 stars. But I really enjoyed it and it's a very beautiful story. Okay, now let's talk about the 6 books that I read in September, again, in no particular order. But the first book I want to talk about is The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. This is one of those books that I had on my TBR for so long, and I finally got around to reading it, and I did not regret it. This is a very touching story, and it's a very prevailing story. Basically, we're following this family in Texas in 1921, and Texas and a lot of the farmland was hit with a very bad drought and a very bad dust bowl to where her kids were getting sick. They were having trouble surviving between breathing in the dust, not having water for their crops in their land that they really loved too. So basically, everybody around them is selling their land and moving to California. They were told that there's lots of jobs in California during this time, but our main character has really grown to love the family that she became a part of and really like grew to love the land that she was living on and that she was tending to. So she was very hesitant to make the trip to California, and the man that she married ends up leaving her and her kids to try and make the trek by himself. He just like takes off in the middle of the night. It ends up being to where this mom and her 2 kids have no choice but to leave the land and leave their home and head out to California. So her in-laws end up giving her the truck and whatever money they have for gas, and they're broke. I don't know what it is about the way that Kristen Hanna tells a story. It is just so beautiful, and I haven't stopped thinking about this family and like everything that they had to endure and like get through, and like just it was just a very beautiful story, and I would highly recommend reading it. Kristen Hanna just has a beautiful way of writing families and writing stories that really just like bring out your emotions. So I would very much recommend this book. Okay, but moving on to a more lighthearted book, I ended up picking up Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice. This was the $5 cafe book at Barnes & Noble, and I just got it because the edges were so cute and it's very fall, very like on theme for what I wanted at the time. However, it is a YA book, and I don't know if I just don't really vibe with YA anymore. Like that time has passed for me, and I don't really like care for it that much. Like obviously, there's still some YA romances that I really love. Like Lynn Painter knows how to write a YA romance without making it like cringy and outdated. This book, however, I didn't really care for it. I feel like there wasn't any romance, if I'm being honest, and we were kind of just focusing on the whole pumpkin spice latte debacle the whole time, and our main character was just really annoying, like really annoying and making problems out of nothing. So I didn't really care for this one. Basically, our main character and her mom own a coffee shop in this small little town. It's kind of like a town that's giving Stars Hollow, very fall themed town, and a chain coffee shop is supposed to be moving in across the street from their coffee shop. But the thing about their coffee shop is that they didn't use any artificial flavors, and obviously during the fall time everybody wants a pumpkin spice latte, and our main character basically was just hating on pumpkin spice lattes the whole time. But then she like randomly changes her mind and says that she's going to try and make a pumpkin spice latte with no fake ingredients, because pumpkin spice lattes are like straight chemicals. There's no like real pumpkin spice in them. So she wants to make a real pumpkin spice latte. So that's kind of what she was focusing on the whole time. And she ends up having this like rivalry with the son of the coffee shop that's supposed to be moving in across the street, and she's like blaming him the whole time. And but then they kind of like end up helping each other, and I don't know, it was kind of weird. It is a very fall themed book, I will give him that, but I just did not really care for the story, and I didn't really care for the characters. Like I said, our main character was very annoying, and like I said again, there was absolutely no romance. Like, I don't even think they held hands. I don't know if this is even like marketed as a romance. Like, it's gotta be. The cover says get ready to fall in love. But I just did not care for our main characters whatsoever. Although I will say it's a great book for like a really YA audience. I don't think my audience would vibe with it. Like, people that I know, I don't think they would like it because it's very surface level, but I think I'm gonna give it 2 stars because I just did not like it whatsoever. And for me, a 3-star book is still a book that I had a good time with and would recommend. However, I would not recommend this book to like my target audience and like people who read the same types of books that I do. I just think it was too surface level and too childish for like what I like to read. And then the next book I have is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I absolutely love this book. I fell in love with these characters so fast, and like Leigh Bardugo's writing literally just has a way of sweeping me up into the world that she has created and the story that she has created. Like, I can picture what she's saying, which I feel like is my favorite type of writing, is when I am immersed into the world that the author has created. And every book that I've read by Leigh Bardugo, that has happened. So I absolutely love Leigh Bardugo's writing. I definitely need to continue this series. This book was so good, between the chaos and like the mission and then the banter. Like, it was so well rounded and such a good story, such a good cast. Like, I really enjoyed it. Basically, we have Kaz Brecker, who's like this criminal prodigy. He's only 17 and he's kind of like in charge of this town area, and like he's a badass, let's just say that. And he is offered a job for $30 million to go and kidnap this like scientist from the ice court, and the ice court is like heavily guarded, so it's like a near impossible mission. But he gets his crew together and he makes the trip and he makes the mission, and it is just a very, very good fantasy book. I love it and I really need to continue the series. Also, so many plot twists, like left and right there was plot twists up until the very end, which again, I love a plot twist. I love books that keep me on my toes, and this one definitely did. Also, another thing that I really enjoyed about this book is how we never really were told the full extent of Kaz Brecker's plan, because Kaz is the leader of this crew. He's the one leading this mission, and he didn't want anybody betraying him. So he never told anybody his full plan. So we would think that the plan was going this way, and then it would be like a shift in the plan, and it was just like we didn't know like that was going to happen, and it was just like unraveling as it was going on. And I really love that. Like I said, I love when a book keeps me on my toes, and this one definitely did. So I really need to pick up the next book as soon as possible because I really enjoyed it. And then I read A Man Called Ove by Frederick Bachman. This is actually my first Frederick Bachman book that I have read, and I am sold. I need to read all of his other books because the way that this man can tell a story is insane. Basically, our main character, Ove, his wife has died, and he's dealing with the grief of that, but he's like trying to take his life throughout this entire book because he misses his wife so much. He just wants to be with his wife, and he's old. He's like ready to go. So he keeps attempting to take his life. He feels like he has no reason to really stick around. Um, he's also a part of like the HOA for this community that he lives in. Like, the residential area that he lives in is like very strict with the HOA, and he's like very strict with it as well. So he, throughout the whole book, he's kind of like a handyman for this neighborhood. He's kind of very much needed in this neighborhood, even though he doesn't realize it. But throughout the whole book, he keeps trying to take his life, and he just keeps getting interrupted by his community. Like, the people in his neighborhood, they keep needing him, or he just keeps getting interrupted every time he tries to take his life, which very clearly is a sign. And he just honestly feels like he has nothing to live for. And honestly, if you give me a book about an old man who is ready to die and ends up finding a purpose to keep living, I'm gonna be bawling my eyes out by the end. So I really enjoyed the story. I really enjoyed Frederick Bachman's writing. It was just such a well-rounded story as well. And I will say that with like this being a heavy topic of grief and suicide, I will say he did a very good job at balancing those topics with like a little bit of comedic relief with his banter and just like the relationships that he was building with his neighbors and everything. Even though he couldn't admit it and even though he didn't realize it, I really enjoyed this book because of that. And I believe I ended up giving this book 4 stars. And then I read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This is actually a book that one of my TikTok followers told me to read, and it did not disappoint. It's a very unique story. Basically, again, our main character wants to die, and she ends up in the space between life and death. And for her, her brain just kind of simplifies that down to a library, and it's different for everybody. And, like, for her, her librarian helped her a lot and like got her through a lot. So I think that's why it's a library for her. But basically, in this midnight library, which is a space between life and death, she is given the opportunity to redo like all of her regrets in her life and try to find a life that she is truly happy in and that she feels like she truly belongs in. So the librarian hands her this book of her regrets, and again, it's a big book. And she basically just gets to go through and redo a lot of her regrets and like check out all of these different lives to see if she had made a different decision in certain scenarios, how that would have played out and how that would have changed the whole course of her life. So honestly, this book was really fun because I felt like I lived 100 different lives because our character goes through so many different lives. And I will say that there's a couple of lives that were very convincing that I thought she might have found the one to live in, but there was always something missing from these lives. So I really enjoyed the story. I love books with magical realism where they don't really explain the magic part and it's kind of just there, and I really love that. So I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I will say that there are heavy topics of depression and like suicide. So that's kind of like a trigger warning. Other than that, it's a very fun book and very interesting to see her go through all these different lives and like all these different like outcomes of what her life could have been if she had made different decisions. Okay, and the last book that I ended up starting in September is the Mindfuck series. I started this book at the end of September and then I finished it a couple of days ago in October, but I read a majority of it in September, so I feel like I should include it in my September wrap up. I really enjoyed this book. I had no idea what to expect when reading this. I don't really read a lot of like horror thriller books, and I ended up finding it at the Goodwill. That is why my copy looks like absolute garbage. But I really enjoyed this book. Basically, we have a serial killer who is on a hunt for revenge for what this town did to her and her family. And the crazy part is that this town thinks that she's dead because of what these people did to her and her family. They believe she's dead, but she actually ended up surviving that night that they did all this to her, and she ended up getting away and changing her identity. And then her accomplice Jake, who's like her best friend, he was her brother's like boyfriend, so he is also like helping her with these killings, and like he wants revenge as well for what they did to her dad and her brother and her mom and like her family and everything. So they are on a revenge warpath for this town, and their plan for getting back at this town is just insane. But the best part about it is that she ends up meeting this FBI agent Logan at a cafe, and they like immediately hit it off, and we kind of just get to see them organically fall in love throughout the whole book. And he's kind of what's like grounding her and keeping her from becoming like a psychopath. She's only killing for revenge, and she knows that. She knows that she's not like psycho crazy, like she's not doing it because she loves it. She's literally doing it for revenge for what this town did to her. And he's kind of like grounding her and keeping her in reality and whatnot. But it's just so ironic that he is an FBI agent and she is like out killing people and then coming home to him, and like, I don't know, it was just kind of crazy how all the parallels and like the irony in this book was just insane. But then he ends up working on her case, and from there it's just kind of crazy because he's like unraveling the secrets of this town, trying to get to the bottom of like the original killer, because they figured out that it's revenge killing. And so they're going after like the original story, like what originally happened in this town. So she's like protecting him while he's in this crazy town, because this town is like completely run by the sheriff. Like the sheriff owns everything, like the media, like everything. He controls and owns everything. It's a very like suspicious town and everything, and he's trying to get to the bottom of what happened all those years ago. Like I said, she has changed her identity and everything, so there's no way for them to like tie these kills back to her because they think she's dead. So like when they start tormenting the town, they think that she's coming back from the dead, which is just so funny. The romance and the tension and the banter in this book were actually insane. Both of our main characters are obviously very busy, so we get a lot of dialogue in the form of text messaging, which I think is so fun to include in books, especially when our characters are living opposite lives and they can't really be together all the time. I honestly wasn't too sure what to expect from the end, but I was honestly satisfied with how it ended, and I ended up giving this book 4 stars. It was just overall, I feel like I had a fun time reading it, even though it's very like triggering and like there's a lot of like graphic scenes in this book. I feel like overall I had a fun time with it, so I ended up giving it 4 stars. But that brings us to the end of all of the books that I read in August and September. I ended up reading a total of 2 romances, 4 literary fictions, and 3 fantasies. So I feel like I had a good variety of books over the past couple months. But other than that, I would love to hear what book you are currently reading. So comment below what you are currently reading. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!